one. Here it is. Isn't that pretty? I have been wanting to make this pattern for a long time, and so I'm really excited about it. I'm going to do version A with these tucks on them. I think it's just really darling. Should I do the long sleeves? Life decisions. I don't know. Ah, that's a good question. Do I have enough fabric? Because I did, let's see. Dress A versus dress B. It's pretty close. So we are going to put this Christmas dress together in, yes, 1 week, folks. And I am going to walk you through the process so you can do the same. Where did I get this from? Oh, that's for Daisy's shadow work dress that I'm working on. JK, that's Audrey's. And this is Daisy's Christmas dress. I'm getting that pattern out and sorting through the pieces. Sure, it may not be my favorite part of sewing, but I keep in mind that there's only so many pieces to cut out, and I just take them one at a time, and eventually they will all get done. Now, something that I am sorting out is that I've got 2 different tones of silk dupioni. So with one of the tones, I'm cutting out the yoke, bodice back, sleeves, and the skirt. And then the next day, I finish up the cutting with the other tone of silk dupioni to cut out the accent pieces. So that's the pleated bodice front, those collars, and the sleeve cuffs. Oh, and the sash. Cannot forget about the sash. That's gonna make a big, beautiful bow in the back. So to make sure that those pleats lay nicely and all of that jazz, I'm applying some interfacing. And then I mark those pleats and it is off to sewing them in place. Alright, good morning. We are back to working on Daisy's dress, and Daisy's actually in the back. You can hear her playing. Her school today, it's Monday, but her school is, they're having some power issues or whatever, so without electricity, you know, not much of a, can't do the whole preschool thing. So anyway, so she's in the background playing, and I'm going to see how much I can get done on her dress today. In the next couple hours before I need to head to the office and work on some other projects. So many fun things coming down the line, especially with my kids now being in school. It's like I can get back to my projects and other things. So there's some fun stuff that I don't want to like give away or anything, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to some of these projects. Anywho, so we're gonna put together as much of this dress as we can. It is out of silk. The thing about silk is it's a love, I wouldn't say the love-hate relationship that I have with silk because I just kind of love it, but I do like to get the pieces together as soon as possible because it just sheds. You just look at it and it just sort of sheds. Anywho. So I'm also interfacing the yoke of this dress with it being silk dupioni. It'll help smooth it out, if that makes sense. I mean, I love silk dupioni. I think it's some of the neatest fabric, and the way that it'll just crinkle up but still hold body. It is just so cool in my opinion. However, there are cases where I don't really want the crinkly vibe, and in that situation, I solve that with some interfacing. So I'm interfacing the yoke bodice area, so since I don't want that crinkled up look. I'm also applying piping to the edge of the yoke, and a little tip here is to pull out the cording a bit at the end so you can trim it away. This will reduce the bulk for future seams. And then I sewed the pleated piece to that yoke. How fun is that, right? It just pops together. So at this point we're finishing up that arm side. So I am searching for that pattern piece to transfer the curve and then cutting that whole thing out. I'm also trimming up the seam while I'm at it. And it's that time again, folks, busting out the bodice ring method. We've got our pleated front, the lining front, and those two backs. back. And we'll join all of these together, right sides together at the shoulder seams using plain old seams. Give those seams a press-in, just open them up and give them a good press-in, and then you can bring the fronts together, which will fold the backs in half, and now you've got yourself a fully lined bodice. So cool. I love this bodice ring method. Never gets old. It's just so super. It's just easy, okay? It's easy and clean and all the good stuff, right? Moving on to that collar, I'm also applying interfacing to the outside of the collar pieces, and then applying some piping. So when applying piping to curves like this, I find it's easy to kind of just curve as you go. I don't really use pins, but as I say, it's sewing, you do you. Instead, what I do is I sew along and I let those stitches hold things in place until something needs tending to. How do you know when it needs tending to? Well, it doesn't want to curve anymore, and in which case that's generally solved with a clip or two. So I'll put my needle down, give it a clip, and then when things bend and curve nicely again, I continue on with my sewing it all along until the piping is down all the way around the collar. Once the piping is secured, then I put the two collar pieces together with right side together and sew around the perimeter. I make sure that the previous stitches holding that piping onto the collar are facing up so I know where to stitch. Trimming up those corners, clipping as necessary, and then turning that collar right sides out. So fun. It's simple steps like this that really get me motivated to keep on sewing. I love seeing the puzzle come together. Like the more pieces that get complete, the more I want to keep on sewing. So I pinned those collars to the bodice with the lining of the bodice pulled away. I'm only going to baste the collars to the garment side of the bodice, not the lining. I start at one end, sewing around that first collar, and when I get to the second collar, I make sure there isn't a gap. I mean, the world is not going to end if there's a gap. Goodness, I know that is true. Did I put this on backwards? Oh my god, I put them on backwards. But another goal would be to sew the front of the collar to the front of the bodice. Yeah. I had the back on the front and the front on the back, so don't mind me as my seam ripper keeps me humble. There, that fits better. Goodness. Trying that again, the front of the collar on the front of the bodice. I am basting the collars into place. I know y'all are so proud. Thank you. And then I fold the lining onto that assembly and I sew from one center back all the way around that neckline until I get to the other back edge. I clip that curve until everything lays nicely into place. Clipping the curves allows the smaller diameter to open up and match that larger diameter. So, do not skip this step. It's the understitch, and it's really important. Seriously, it keeps things polished and tidy around that neckline. Take the entire seam for the neckline and flip it towards the lining side, and then stitch closely to that seam on the lining side of the bodice. I know like I might sound a little dramatic, but it really does a fabulous job of taking your garment from, that whole homemade with applesauce vibe to the homemade couture, if you will. And then I push those corners out using this corner pusher outer tool. You love that name. And give everything a really good pressing. And voila, we have ourselves a bodice. Alright, so we are back from the office because now we have two kids that are at home. We have Daisy that's been home all morning since her preschool was closed, as I mentioned earlier, and now we've got Henry who's home because he's not feeling so well. So poor thing is watching his cartoons on the couch. So we're going to get back to this. Alright, so onto those sleeves. There is this lovely cuff, a part of the pattern that I use the darker tone for a pretty contrast. So between the cuff and the sleeve, I'm adding a top of that wine color by way of this piping, aligning it with the top raw edge, sewing along until I got to the point, and then giving that a clip so it'll turn the corner, and I just continue sewing to the other side.
Where's Henry? Is that Henry's spot? Henry. Leaving me on the drive.
Do you mind turning on the other set of lights, please? Oh, thank you.
I give that an ironing, and then this sleeve. I'm looking at it and wondering why it's so dang long. Was I crazy? I measured Daisy's arm, and nope, I was not crazy. So I took off some length from the bottom before sewing the cuff to the bottom, understitching, and then pressing all of that so it lays nicely into place. And to finish off the whole shebang, I'm top stitching around the piping and adding these sweet buttons. I just love them. They are covered buttons that have that same wine shade, and I think they just really polish off the whole bottom of the sleeve, kind of giving like that old-timesy, old world classic feel.
So Audrey's at school.
Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing? In Christmas times, we'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sand. You ready? Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart. And I can promise Santa's coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss this in Christmas times. Oh, and the sun said it is just getting better on a blanket with the
There are many ways to attach a sleeve, but for this dress, I'm going to join the side seams first and then inset the sleeve. Time out. First, I'm going to put those sashes onto the side seams. So back up while I make the sashes, unpick those side seams, back to that whole handy dandy seam ripper, And I flip the sashes right sides out.
What do you got? You got some marbles? Yeah. It's for your dress. Daisies. It's for Daisy. It's for you. It's for you. It's for you for Christmas. It's for you for Daisy. Henry.
So, I don't mean to be giving this pattern a hard time. I really don't. But I am thankful about cutting off some of the bottom of that sleeve. Sure enough, it needed it. Daisy fits pretty well into a toddler size, like 2 to 3 clothing. She's around, she'll be 3 early January. So she's a little over 2.5. Size 2s are getting a little bit snug. Size 3s are a little loose. She's definitely in the sizing. That's what I'm trying to say.
This is super long. Like, even if you do the bow thing, it's still pretty long.
And these sashes also seem long, so I'm giving them a trimming up too. Pushing out those corners. Well, okay, I'm using a tweezer to help the corners out because, you know, it's a sash. It's pretty long. That's the best tool I have at my disposal. And then I put them in on the second pass of the French seam. It is better late than never, right folks? For some reason, I often forget about sashes and whatnot. And then I pin them up and just out of the way of future seams so I don't risk them getting caught in those stitches. And from there, we can attach the sleeves using French seams. Now on to that embroidery. I am using the motif included with the pattern as a starting off point, and transferring this motif posed some challenges. So the motif is going on these pleats, and there's all of those layers, and then there's the layer of the interfacing, and then the layer of the lining of the bodice. So yeah, lots of layers here. And even with the slide board, I was about to see nothing. So instead, I'm using this water-soluble stuff to save the day. And once I was done transferring it, I put the motif aside for now so I can continue putting the puzzle together, kind of getting excited about this dress taking shape.
There's a light got the prettiest side for everyone to enjoy. Standing up close by the Christmas tree, glimmering light, I am right where I wanna be. I will be home for a couple of days, wander around with you. You and me in the cold, thought it'd never be true. Wherever I go, I got you. Oh, I have stopped running, there is no way trying. You better loosen your belts. Drinking hot wine by the fire, don't care of anything else.
So on to day 4, I'm gathering up that skirt and adjusting the gathers until they fit the bodice. I pin the known locations first, if you will. So what I mean by that is the back of the placket to the back of the bodice, the side seams of the bodice to the side seams of the skirt, and so on. And then adjust the gathers and length until everything fits nicely together. I attach that with one row of straight stitches and then another row of stitches about 1/8 of an inch apart from the first row. Now I've come to this situation of finishing up the waist seam. So this is not a fully lined dress, but even so, I do not think silk dupioni should be left alone. I think it really should be sealed up. But how to do this? Well, a French seam, in my opinion, would seem too bulky. So instead, I'm going to trim her down, and then I'm going to get some help from good old Hug Snug. I put the Hug Snug on one side of the seam, and I'm wondering if I can get away with just one strip. So I try to fold it over to enclose those raw edges of the seam and sew her down, but it really just doesn't work well. My Hug Snug is only 1/2 inch wide. So back to the seam ripper. I know I've used her a lot in this project. So since this seam is too bulky for just one piece of Hug Snug, I add another piece of Hug Snug on the other side of the seam. And that's going to allow me to make a Hug Snug, blah, 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 blah. Allow me to make a Hug Snug sandwich. Say that 10 times fast. One piece of Hug Snug on either side of the seam, and then I'll stitch along the top, which will enclose the seam. Voila! Alrighty, back to the embroidery motif. I'm pinning the water-soluble bit onto the dress. So some of you kind folks at home are wondering about water in silk. I just know it. And yes, silk can be washed, it can be dried. The issue with shrinkage is the drastic change in temperature. At least that's how I understand it. I really would like to do a proper experiment one day, but that day is not today, and nor will it be tomorrow. So for now, I'm just going to enjoy stitching this embroidery design. I've taken the dress to my sewing office in search for the perfect shade of red wine in floche. One wasn't coming to my mind. And alas, there isn't one. I have the full collection of floche, so I have all the colors at my fingertips. I did try one that I was hoping to get away with, but it just wasn't cutting it. So instead, I used cotton or broder for that color, and then floche for the rest of the colors.
Merry Christmas, baby. Reindeer's coming out to play. Santa Claus is packing the presents, making sure you've been behaving okay. Merry Christmas, honey. Yeah. The snowman's dusting off his hat, putting on the show for everybody, to give them a smile that lasts another year. There's something that happens when sleigh bells are ringing, when December ends, when the children are singing. Merry Christmas, baby. The snow is laying 2 feet deep. Now wish upon a falling star, so all your secret dreams can come true. There's something that happens when sleigh bells are ringing.
Don't mind the noise. The kiddos are outside with Daddy doing the leaf blower. It's prime fall season right here. We have all the tourists from like all over the nation here visiting the Smoky Mountains. It's beautiful. I was actually coming up through Cashers on my way home from Farmhouse, if y'all didn't see. So this is the weekend after Farmhouse. Don't mind my whole thing. I am letting everything come back down to baseline. I've been learning about balance, and I'm learning about balance. This is part of me learning about balance. Anywho, so it is Sunday during nap time. Everly is sleeping. The 3 kiddos are outside with Daddy doing the leaf blower, and I thought I might just like double. I was at Farmhouse on Friday, which was so exciting, so much fun to see everybody in person, and it's just good to see people in person and living, breathing flesh and connect and all of those sort of things. So I'm going through my goodies at Farmhouse. One of the things I got, let me show you. So I got a lot of goodies at Farmhouse, but here is Daisy's dress that I need to finish. The hem is really the only thing besides like the buttonholes and whatever little hand bits here and there that I need to still do. And one of the things I got at Farmhouse was their sequins. We talked about this on Gavin Gush. It's one of my favorite embellishments. It's so classic, timeless, just itty bitty sparkle, but not like, that's my arm. It's just all like, it's still like heirloom sparkle, you know what I mean? It's not like glitter sparkle. I don't think there's anything wrong with glitter sparkle. But for something more like this, I want like heirloomy style sparkle. Does that make any sense? I'm gonna try to find this thing. Ah, I found them. There you are, you sneak. Okay, so I'm kind of making this up as I go along, but I am going to be utilizing, I think, the curves on this back of the, this is my smocking, like my bishop blocking board, and then on the other side, it's got these curves. So I think I'm going to be using that. My idea, okay, so here's what I want, okay. I want there to be some sort of wine color on the bottom. Ideally, I wanted like a fabric hem, but they don't have any, at least we didn't find any. Who knows what's between all the bolts. Farmhouse, oh my gosh. Every time I go there, I'm like, they've done it again. They put more fabric into into the building. And next time I come, I'm like, and then I'm like, there's not possibly any more space, right? Next time I come, they've done the impossible. They've put more fabric and more goodies into the space. So there may be some in between, who knows, but we didn't find any of the color that would go with this dress. So my thought then is to take these little sequins, where do they go? Here they are. And to sew them on with cotton embroidery, the same, that I do the embroidery with. That way I get some color on the bottom, and I get a little bit of sparkle and stuff too, so that'll be kind of nice. I love these sequins. These are one of my favorite things. I use them so many times, and I just love them for like an heirloom style of sparkle, because they are mother of pearl, so they are a classic finish, and it just gives you a little pop of sparkle, which is just, I love a little sparkle, a little luster, So I'm going to kind of make up this whole scallop thing and kind of make up a pattern that incorporates the sequins. I feel like I'm ironing the sides. Don't mind me. But yeah, make up a pattern, that incorporates the sequins, and just and use that, with the cotton border, and yeah, here we go. And there you go, another Christmas dress done in 1 week. Go check out the other videos in this Christmas series. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, I appreciate y'all for watching and I hope to catch y'all next time.